Come a little closer, my love. Not because I need you to hear me better, but because this is how I speak when I care. I know you don't expect anyone to stay anymore. Not really. You've learned how to nod, how to smile, how to say, I'm fine in a way that keeps the room calm and your heart guarded. You've learned how to be strong without asking for applause. You've learned how to carry your days without leaning too hard on anyone. And somewhere along the way, you told yourself that this was just who you had to be. Now, I see that I've been looking at you quietly for a while, not the loud way people look when they want to take something from you, not the impatient way people look when they're waiting for you to become easier, younger, simpler, but the quiet way. The way a man looks when he's not trying to impress you, only understand you. My love, you don't walk into a room hoping to be chosen anymore. You walk in prepared to stand on your own, and I know how heavy that gets. I know how tired your shoulders feel at the end of the day, even when you don't say a word about it. I know how often you wonder, late at night when everything is still, whether anyone would choose you if you stopped holding yourself together so well. Have you ever noticed how careful your hope has become? How it doesn't rush anymore? How it sits quietly like it's learned not to ask for too much? Sweetheart, that didn't happen because you stopped believing in love. It happened because you once believed in it deeply. You loved with your whole body, with your whole history, with the kind of devotion that doesn't know how to stay shallow. And when that kind of love is broken or simply left alone, it doesn't disappear. It changes shape. It becomes quieter, wiser, more guarded, more real. People might tell you that this makes you difficult, too independent, too cautious, too slow to open. But when I look at you, darling, I don't see difficulty. I see depth. I see a woman who doesn't rush because she understands the cost of giving her heart. I see a woman who doesn't perform happiness because she values truth more than approval. I see a woman who knows how to be alone not because she wants to be, but because she had to learn. And let me ask you something, my love. When was the last time someone stayed long enough to notice that? When was the last time someone looked at your quiet and didn't try to fill it? At your independence and didn't feel threatened? At your careful heart and didn't try to rush it open? I'm not asking you to answer out loud. I just want you to feel the question land, because the things you think make you harder to love, those are the very things that make me lean in. Your pauses, your hesitation, the way you don't give yourself away too quickly anymore. That's not distance, sweetheart. That's discernment. And I know you might be thinking, if I were easier, maybe someone would stay. I know you've wondered whether you should soften your edges, quiet your needs, pretend you don't care so much. I know you've asked yourself whether the version of you that exists right now, this age, this body, this history, could ever be someone's first choice. Let me tell you something gently, not loudly, not dramatically. The woman who tries to be easier is not the one I'm drawn to. I'm drawn to the woman who knows her worth so deeply that she no longer begs to be seen. I'm drawn to the way you listen more than you speak, to the way you stopped explaining yourself to people who weren't really listening anyway, to the way you carry both softness and steel in the same breath. My love, I'm not looking at you thinking about what you lack. I'm looking at you recognizing what you've survived. And I want you to stay here with me for a few minutes. Just stay. Not because I'm asking anything from you, but because I want to tell you how I choose. I want to talk to you about the kind of choosing that doesn't announce itself, the kind that doesn't come with big promises or dramatic declarations, the kind that happens quietly when a man sees a woman exactly as she is and doesn't feel the urge to leave. So take a breath, sweetheart. Let your shoulders drop just a little. You don't need to impress me. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to be more open than you're ready to be. Just stay with me here. I'm still looking at you. Stay right here, my love. I want to tell you something without raising my voice, because the truth I'm about to say doesn't need to compete with anything. I know the list you carry in your head, the quiet one, the one you never read out loud, too guarded, too independent, too slow to trust, too aware of endings. You call them flaws. You lower your expectations around them. You warn people about them, almost as if you're apologizing in advance for being exactly who life shaped you into. But when I look at those same things, sweetheart, they don't feel like obstacles to me. They feel like home. Let me explain this gently, not to convince you, but to let you feel seen. You don't rush into people anymore. You don't fall just because someone looks at you with interest. You don't confuse attention with safety. And I know you've been told that makes you distant, that you're hard to read, that you hold back too much. But what I see is a woman who learns slowly, painfully, that love without steadiness can cost you pieces of yourself. I see a woman who once gave freely and paid dearly for it. And instead of becoming bitter, you became discerning. That's not coldness, darling. That's intelligence of the heart. You learn to listen before you trust, to watch patterns instead of promises, to feel the grow beneath your feet before you step forward. And I find that deeply attractive. Your independence, the way you handle things on your own, the way you don't ask for help easily. You think that pushes people away. But when I look at you, my love, I don't feel shut out. I feel invited into something real. Because independence like yours isn't about not needing anyone. It's about having survived, not being supported. You didn't wake up one day deciding to be strong. You became strong because someone had to be. So when you stand steady on your own, when you don't cling, when you don't collapse into someone else for reassurance, I don't see a woman who doesn't need love. I see a woman who knows exactly what love should feel like when it's right. And that kind of knowing, that's rare. You're careful now. You pause before opening up. You don't hand over your story to just anyone. You probably worry that this makes you less romantic, less exciting, less chosen. But let me ask you something, sweetheart. What if romance doesn't live in urgency anymore? What if it lives in safety? What if the most intimate thing about you is not how quickly you fall, but how deeply you stay once you do? I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to the way you sit with your feelings instead of dramatizing them, to the way you don't need constant reassurance, but you still notice when it's missing, to the way you've learned to protect your heart without closing it completely. You think your quiet is emptiness. I hear it as depth. You think your boundaries are walls. I feel them as clarity. You think your hesitation is fear. I recognize it as wisdom earned the hard way. And I know there's a part of you that wonders if someone would still want you if you didn't soften everything, if you didn't smile through discomfort, if you didn't make yourself smaller so love could stay. Sweetheart, the man who needs you to shrink was never meant to stay anyway. Because the things you call flaws, your caution, your independence, your emotional precision, those are not things I need to work around. Those are the things I lean toward. They tell me you won't disappear into me. They tell me you won't lose yourself for affection. They tell me that if you choose me, it will be conscious, grounded, real, and that matters to me more than ease, more than excitement, more than surface level chemistry. I don't want the version of you that performs. I want the version of you that pauses, the one who notices, the one who has learned, the one who doesn't rush love because she respects it too much. That woman feels familiar to me. She feels steady. She feels like someone who knows how to stay. And I want you to hear this clearly. My love, not as reassurance, but as truth. You don't need to fix these parts of yourself to be chosen. You don't need to soften them, hide them, or explain them away. Because the very things you worry make you difficult are the reasons I see you as someone worth choosing. So if you ever catch yourself wondering whether you're too much or not enough, I want you to remember this moment. I'm not leaning away from who you are. I'm leaning in. Come here, my love, not closer to impress me. Closer so you can hear how steady my voice is when I say this. If I choose you, I stay. Not in a dramatic way, not with promises that sound beautiful and disappear when life gets heavy. I stay in the quiet, ordinary, uncelebrated moments, the ones that matter most. I know you've heard words before. I know someone once said, I'm not going anywhere, and then slowly did. I know you learned to listen more to actions than to declarations. So, I'm not asking you to believe me because of how this sounds. I want you to feel it and how it lands. If I choose you, darling, I don't keep checking the D. Or, I don't measure you against other options. I don't stay halfway in, ready to pull back the moment things feel complicated. I stay when you're quiet. I stay when you're tired. I stay when you don't feel charming or light or easy to love. Because choosing you isn't about convenience to me. It's about recognition. You see, my love, I don't fall for the polished version of a woman. I don't fall for the version that's always smiling, always agreeable, always holding herself together so no one feels uncomfortable. I fall for the woman who's lived long enough to know when she needs to breathe. The woman who doesn't perform closeness, the woman who understands that real connection doesn't rush, it settles. That's why when I choose you, I'm not choosing potential, I'm choosing presence. I'm choosing the way you pause before you speak. The way you feel first, then decide, the way you don't give yourself away just to avoid being alone. Sweetheart, that kind of woman doesn't need to be chased. She needs to be met. And if I meet you, truly meet you, I don't walk away when things stop being effortless. I stay when the day has worn you down. When you sit beside me and don't say much because words feel like too much work. I stay when you question yourself, when old doubts whisper that you're asking for too much simply by existing as you are. I stay when you're strong, and I stay when you finally let yourself soften. because love to me isn't about choosing the easiest version of you. It's about choosing the truest one. You might still wonder quietly, carefully, but what if I disappoint you? What if my past shows up? What if I'm not always warm or patient or open? Darling, those questions don't scare me. They tell me you understand the weight of commitment. You don't ask them because you're insecure. You ask them because you've learned what happens when love isn't held properly. And that's exactly why, if I choose you, I don't disappear when reality arrives. I don't pull away when your independence shows up in full. I don't feel threatened when you don't need constant reassurance. I don't confuse your boundaries with distance. I understand them. I know that your strength isn't armor, it's experience. I know your calm isn't indifference, it's self-respect. I know your hesitation isn't fear, it's discernment. And I choose you because of that, not in spite of it. Sweetheart, staying doesn't mean clinging, it means consistency. It means I'm still there when you don't feel like entertaining anyone. It means I don't make you prove that you're worth my time. It means you don't have to keep earning my presence. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to stop monitoring yourself? To stop wondering whether today you're being too much or not enough? To simply exist beside someone without bracing for the moment they leave? That's the space I want you to feel with me. Not excitement that spikes and crashes. Not intensity that burns fast and fades, but something steadier, something calmer, something that doesn't require you to be on guard. If I choose you, my love, I'm not choosing a fantasy. I'm choosing a woman with a past, with depth, with edges softened by time and sharpened by truth. I'm choosing the way you love once you feel safe, the way you show up quietly but fully, the way you stay loyal to yourself even when it costs you connection. And that tells me something important. It tells me that if you choose me, it won't be accidental. It won't be out of loneliness. It won't be because you're afraid to be alone. It will be because you recognize something solid in me. And that mutual choosing, that's where staying begins. So, no, I'm not asking you to leap. I'm not asking you to promise anything. I'm not asking you to let your guard down faster, T. On, you ready? I'm just telling you this softly and clearly. If I choose you, I stay. Not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. And I want you to sit with how that feels. Because what comes next isn't about urgency, it's about peace. Stay with me, my love, not because there's something more you need to hear, but because this is where everything softens. I don't believe in love that needs noise to feel real. I don't trust connection that survives only on intensity. I've seen how easily fireworks fade when no one knows how to sit in the quiet afterward. What I'm drawn to now is simpler, calmer, truer presence, the kind that doesn't rush to explain itself, the kind that doesn't need a spotlight, the kind that shows up again and again without making you wonder whether it will disappear tomorrow. My love, I know you've lived through enough drama for a lifetime, enough emotional highs followed by long, confusing silences, enough moments where you felt close one day and invisible the next. You learned how to read shifts in tone, how to sense distance before it was spoken, how to brace yourself for change even when no one warned you it was coming. That's not because you're suspicious, it's because you're perceptive. And I don't want you to have to be perceptive with me. I don't want you watching my mood, measuring my words, wondering whether you've done something wrong. I don't want you adjusting yourself to keep things smooth or holding your breath every time you speak honestly. I want you to feel how steady it is here. No drama, no guessing, just presence, sweetheart. Presence means I don't disappear when emotions settle into something quieter. I don't confuse calm with boredom. I don't mistake peace for lack of passion, because the kind of passion I care about doesn't burn out quickly. It warms slowly. It's the kind that shows itself in how I listen to you when you walk about your day, and how I notice when you're tired without you having to say it, and how I sit beside you when there's nothing to fix, nothing to solve, nothing to prove. Presence is staying when there's nothing exciting happening and realizing that's exactly the point. You don't need a relationship that keeps your nervous system alert. You've lived long enough in that state already. You deserve one that lets you exhale. Darling, I know part of you still wonders if calm love means being less desired, if being chosen quietly means being chosen lightly. But I want you to hear this clearly without embellishment. Choosing you calmly doesn't mean choosing you weakly. It means choosing you consciously. It means I'm not chasing a feeling. I'm committing to a woman who doesn't need to be rescued, a woman who doesn't need to be convinced, a woman who knows how to stand on her own and still wants companionship. That's not something I take lightly, and I don't want you thinking you have to soften your edges to keep this kind of presence. You don't need to smooth yourself out, dim your intelligence, or pretend you're easier than you are. My love, The things you think make you too much are exactly what make you feel safe to stay with. Your honesty, your self-awareness, your refusal to lose yourself for approval, those aren't obstacles to intimacy, they're invitations to something deeper. You don't need to be constantly open to be close. You don't need to be endlessly warm to be lovable. You don't need to be agreeable to be chosen. You just need to be you, the version that's learned, lived, felt, and survived. And that version doesn't need drama to feel alive. I don't want to keep you on edge wondering where you stand. I want you to know without asking that you're held in place, not by obligation, but by intention.